Everyone, welcome back to the Excelcast. I'm your host, Joe Parker, and today I have a childhood friend and long distance runner, Elias. Sorry, why did I say
You good? You good?
Elias Dimitrakopoulos. Elias, how you doing today, man?
I'm great, man. How about yourself?
I'm good, man. I'm good. So, you ran your first full marathon last year in November. How was that experience for you?
Yeah, so it was actually, I wasn't planning on doing it in the beginning of the year. So pretty much to give you kind of like a start on how I started running, in April of last year, I kind of just, signed up for a half marathon. The local YMCA had one here, and one person at my gym said you should just try it out. And I was like, I don't know, I've never run more than like I think at the time like 8 miles, but I just signed up for it and I did it. And it was hard, but I got it done. And I was like, I ran a half one and they had a full one in November. So I was like, I'll just sign up for it and, try it. And, the worst that can happen is, right, I signed up for it, I tried it, and, at least I tried it. It ended up going a lot better than what I expected. And I got under 3 hours. So that was the goal I had in the back of my head when I signed up for it, because I know it's a big number for everyone. But I was able to do it. I wasn't sure at first when I signed up for it, but it happened. So that's kind of how it started last year.
That's nice. So, what was your mindset you said going into it was to get under 3 hours, but
Mhm.
were you the entire time thinking like I need to run at this pace, or were you just like I just need to get it done?
Yeah. So when I first started, I knew 3 hours. The reason I had 3 hours in mind, right? So for people who are running and know about it, that's kind of like the goal pace for my age group. Every age group's different, but for my age group and male, like 20 to 29, it's under 3 hours to qualify for Boston Marathon, pretty much, right? So that's like the biggest like marathon, one of the elite ones. And I was like, I know that's a 650-mile pace. Now, at the time when I had started running, I could barely even run 1 mile for 6 minutes and 50 seconds. Like that was hard. So I was like, I need to figure out a way to where I can average it out to be 650. So if you kind of look at my running journey from where it started last year, when I ran that half marathon, that first one, I did it in an hour 40 minutes. So if you double that, that's 3 hours and 20 minutes. So I'm far off, right? Far off at that
Yeah.
point. And that's only a half marathon. And I was looking at it the other week and I was like, man, I was just looking at how far my running has progressed. That comes out to 7 minutes and 40 seconds per mile for a half marathon.
Yeah.
And my heart rate was through the roof on that run. Like, I mean, I was gassed the whole time. But when I sign up for something, I kind of just like go like 120%, if that makes sense, right? Like you sign up for them, like I'm gonna give everything I have on this day. So I would
Yeah.
say when I ran that one, man, my heart rate was the average heart rate for that, because I looked at my watch. The watches aren't 100% accurate, but it said my average heart rate was 190, and I believe it. Like I could feel my heart pumping the whole race, and like I was wrecked the whole week after that. Like I couldn't run the whole week. So then I got a good pair of running shoes, slowly building up the mileage. And then I did a half marathon about 2 months before the marathon. So this is in September. And
Okay.
at the time, I was like, all right, I want to see where I'm at, to get under 3 hours. It's like, I know I need 650. And at that point, I was like, I did the race. It came out to, on my watch, it said an hour 29 minutes. On the race, it was like an hour 30 minutes and 8 seconds. So I'm like, man. So that was came out to like 652 per mile. I'm like, I'm 2 months away. And if I double that, it's still just over 3 miles. So then I'm like, questioning myself. I'm like, man, I don't even know if I'm going to be able to do it. But then at the time, like that half marathon was kind of like a test. I also didn't taper for it as well. So I still had a lot of miles that week, I would say. So I was like,
Okay.
all right, I'm close, but I'm still far off because, half marathon is completely different game than the full marathon. The full marathon, I mean, you can run 13 miles, but then you double that, 26 miles. It's hard to keep that pace for that long for anyone that knows about running. And then, so
Yeah,
then I'm like,
absolutely.
at that point, I'm like, well, I know I can at least do a full marathon. But then I was like, am I going to be able to hit my goal? So it started like to get in, I get in my head a lot. And I was like, man, I just could keep training for it. You already signed up for it. When you start something, you want to finish what you started. So I just kept running, followed the training program I was doing. That's another thing maybe we can get into a little bit more here soon is the training program that I was following. I kind of just like picked like an elite one, which you shouldn't do right off the bat when you're not even a runner. But I kind of wanted to hit that under 3 hours. So I was doing the work that I had to. And then I would say about a month out from the marathon, I did 17 miles and it was about 6:55 per mile. So that boosted my confidence. I'm like, all right, 17 miles, 6:55. That's pretty close to what I wanted to hit. And then about my last speed workout before the marathon was 3.5 weeks out. I hit an 8 mile run and it was 6:40 per mile. So that had me feeling very confident. I was like, 6:40 per mile. Okay, 8 miles, it's like almost a third of the marathon. So I'm like, I don't know if I can keep that pace for the full marathon. It was like the worst thing that can happen is, all right, now I have 3.5 weeks. No more like insane big runs. With the marathon, you kind of taper down those last 2 weeks. It's just less miles. You want to show up to the race healthy. And then we show up to the race, and man, it was so cold that day. It was freezing. We show up, it starts at like 7:30, but there was a bunch of traffic, and I'm in the front with one other kid, and we're just talking. He's like, his goal time was like, he saw me from the half marathons, and he's like, man, you're pretty fast. And I was like, yeah, I know you finished a little bit ahead of me. I had seen him at the other race. I was like, he was going for like 2 hours and 55 minutes or something. He ended up doing like 2:52. So that's awesome for him. And so we were standing there in the cold and we're ready to go. We already took like our first gel. When you run, you have gels that you refuel with during the race. And then the guy at the front is like, he tells us they're going to delay it 10 minutes. So we're already like freezing. It's 30 degrees on this day, 30 degrees, like super cold. And it didn't get above like 32, I think, the whole race.
Wow.
And all I had on was, they gave us like this little Harrisburg marathon. It was like a nice light fit thing. I had some shorts on. I always run in shorts, like almost no matter the weather. It's just more comfortable. It's easier to run. Had my gloves on,
Absolutely.
but when it's 30 degrees and it's cold, man, and you're standing there, you're freezing. And so we're waiting 10 more minutes. And then I'm like, all right, here we are. We start. My legs felt great that day. Like, honestly, I started super fast. I did the first half in an hour 25. So I was like, man, hour 25. So I have room to spare. So if I double that, it's 2 hours and 50 minutes. And then I kept going. I kept checking my watch every mile, like to see what the time is on my watch. It tells me what I ran the last mile at. And I would say I kept it under 6:50 until we hit mile 17 and it started to get really hard. Man, when I say hard, like my breathing was fine. It was my legs. My legs wouldn't let me run any faster. So then I'm just doing math in my head as I'm running. I'm like, all right, what pace do I need to hit to get under 3 hours at this point? Because I'm at mile 17. Every mile's been under 6:50. I even had like some six minute miles in there, 6:20 miles in there. And I was like, I always start out fast. So even when I did my other half marathons, for me, I always start out fast. I think in the future, I'm going to try and start out slower because that's what you're supposed to do and build into it so you don't burn out. But I don't know. I just know me personally, when I'm trying to hit a goal, I like to give myself that wiggle room.
Yeah.
So then we hit mile 20 and I feel this pain in my knee. And I'm like, I don't even know if I can finish the race. Like, I'm literally like, man, I never had this pain in my knee. And there were some sharp turns in the race. So I think that's part of it.
Mm.
Because you hit the end and they don't really make you like keep going on a course. Essentially, the Harrisburg Marathon that they did, it's 2 full half marathons. So that's 2 full loops of the same loop. And
Hmm.
at some points, you go under a bridge, you make some pretty sharp turns. And I think from those sharp turns and the speed I was running, I had never run this fast for this long in my life. Like, I had run like 20, 25 miles before, but not at this speed. So my legs weren't ready for it, but I really wanted to hit that goal. And then I hit like I said, mile 20 cramps, sharp pain in my knee, and that pain didn't go away. But then I was like, man, I can hold this pace. I've done it before. So all I had to do was hold like a 740 minute per mile pace. And I was like, I can do this. I get to mile 24 and I was like, all right, I was at mile 24 and on my watch it said 2:44. So I was like, I have 16 minutes to run these last 2 miles pretty much. It's like it's an 8 minute mile. So I'm literally just like, finish the race, finish the race. And I finished, like I get to the end, I think it's like quarter mile left. And then I have like the last like 100 meters and I'm looking at my watch, it's like 2:58 and I can see the end. And then I finished like 2:59:06. And I was like, man, right when I finished, I stopped. I was like pumped up. I mean, like if you've seen the pictures of it, like I was at the finish line. I mean, we even know like we went to McDevitt on high school with the Briners. Their mom took the pictures of me at the finish line because she knew I was gonna be there. Man, I was
Yeah.
so pumped up when I finished the race because I knew I was hitting my goal.
Yeah.
And I couldn't walk like an hour after that. Like my legs, both legs just shot. But I was like,
Yeah.
man, that's crazy how like I had never run that speed before for so long and I was able to do it, just finishing that. And there were some people there that knew me from the race and they're like, man, that's crazy. Some other older guys that were runners, they're like, man, we've been training forever and we couldn't get under 3 hours. I don't know how you did that on your first marathon ever. So it was just, and I was like, I felt like I was on top of the world when I finished that. I was like, man, this is amazing. All that
Dude,
hard
that's
work
awesome,
paid
man.
off.
Yeah.
So that was crazy. That's kind of how it started. So, I mean, April, it's March right now, so 11 months into running. And, I'm just hoping to keep getting better, better, better. So it's exciting. I'm excited.
Absolutely, man.
I think, part of the thing is you have to set like these big goals. At first, it was like I just signed up for the marathon, but then I also had that time, right? So you got to set goals that are, scary, but they're attainable, right? Like I'm not gonna say, oh, I'm gonna go break the world record in a marathon, right? Because that's not even possible. But like under 3 hours, it's hard, but it's worth fighting for it. So it ended up paying off.
Yeah, absolutely, man. That's a nice goal that you set for yourself. And I think that you just mentally setting that goal, your body and everything that you did, even though you did that elite training schedule, you did that
Hmm.
knowing that you had a specific goal in mind and that you needed to do that in order to achieve what you achieved. Do you have any races that you're looking to do this year?
Let's see. Yeah, yeah. So I do have some races actually. I have a half marathon actually. I'm gonna do the same one that I did last year, the first one. I'm doing that one again here in April. So about 5 weeks from now, April 14th, I think. So 5 or 6 weeks. And I have a pretty hefty goal in mind. I will say here, because I've told people before, I'm shooting for an hour 20 minutes for the half marathon.
Okay,
Hour 20.
nice.
It could go better. It could go worse. We'll see how it is. I mean, I'm excited for it. Hour 20 is like 6:04, 6:05 per mile. I would like to do 6 minutes
Yeah,
per mile, like an hour 18 something. We'll see. I'll be towards the front. I was looking at last year the people that won. It was like an hour 18 minutes. So I mean, for a local race, that's okay. So we'll aim for that. And then I'm doing the Chicago Marathon. That's my full marathon. I actually qualified for that. The qualifying time is 3:05. So I signed up for it right when I finished the Harrisburg Marathon. So I'll do that in October this year. So that's my big race for this year's Chicago Marathon. And we have a goal time in mind
awesome,
for that
man.
as well. 2 hours and 45 minutes. But it might be faster than that.
Wow.
So we'll
Okay.
see. Yeah, we'll see. That's the
Yeah.
goal right now,
So,
2:45 for Chicago.
so you plan on shaving that much
15,
time off?
14,
Like,
14 minutes. Yeah. At
yeah.
least 14
Wow.
minutes. Yeah.
That's awesome, man. Good for you. And not only do you do like marathon training, but you also work out all the time. So, what kind of diet do you have to consume in order to do all this running? I mean, I see on your stories you run between like 6, 7 to like 11, 12 miles a day. So,
Yeah, daily. Yeah.
what kind of diet do you have to
Yeah,
consume?
so I mean, for the most part, I always tell people like you have to fuel yourself, otherwise your body's just gonna break down, right? So I mean, when you're running, a lot of times I do run early in the morning, so I can't eat something heavy, but it's what I ate the day before that fuels me for that. So mostly during the days, if I run early in the morning and I have time to eat something before I run in the morning, it'll be something light, like a banana, a bagel or something, just something to get some carbohydrates. And that's going to be your primary source of fuel when you're going out for a run early in the morning. Now, if I have time beforehand, I'll eat a fuller meal, right? Like I'll have some oatmeal, protein shake, some eggs, something that will take 2 or 3 hours to digest, but fuel me for the run. And a lot of runners, if you know this, you can't eat a lot like right before you run because it's going to mess with your stomach, especially for those longer distances. So that's what you'll do before run. After run, you need to eat something after you run. You're not going to be hungry, but you just spent so much energy and your body's like depleted. So you got to eat. I always say some protein and some type of carbohydrate. So whatever you have to find whatever works for you. I love fruit, so I'll eat some fruit and then I usually make a protein smoothie. That's real easy for me. So you can use whatever type of milk you like. I just use almond milk, some frozen fruit, add some frozen blueberries. I love pineapples, frozen mango, anything in there. And then you just use a protein powder that works for you. I just use a vanilla one. I just mix that up. You get your protein, your carbohydrates in there. And then, a few hours later in the day, eat some healthy lunch too. So chicken, salmon, salad. You got to get the micronutrients in too. But I say the biggest thing is eat whole foods, and make sure you're eating enough. A good sign is if you're always tired, exhausted, and you don't have energy, and you feel like your body's not recovering, it's either because you're not eating enough or you're not sleeping enough. So those are the two biggest things. You have to make sure you're eating enough and sleeping enough because when you're running, and lifting. I do strength train a lot. That's actually how I started fitness. I was always strength training. And I would say that probably built my mindset to be able to do marathons. A lot of people will be like, how that build your mindset to do marathons? But the weights will humble you really fast when you have that in mind. So that's where I started. I still train similar to what I used to, but because of the running, obviously I'm not lifting as heavy as I was because that'll put fatigue on your body. Now it's more so to maintain what I have, but to keep my body healthy to be able to run as well too. So once in a while, hit the weights though, and do an older workout because I like to see where I was to compare to beforehand, but try not to do that too much because you don't want to burn yourself out either. So
Yeah, absolutely. I'm at a point right now, it's a pivotal point in my journey of fitness where I am, I run probably like a mile, mile and a half in the morning before I lift, and then I go right into lifting. And then once I go
mhm.
right into lifting, I feel somewhat fatigued because I don't eat before, right? So I don't eat before a lift or a run, which is something that I may try to change here. Uh, in between that run and that lift, maybe get like a honey stinger or something like that. But I've also been trying to eat more whole foods, as you have mentioned. So like
Mhm.
I don't eat many carbs at all. If I eat carbs, it's fruit, right? So it's fruit,
Mhm.
vegetables, and just any kind of protein like eggs, steak, chicken, lamb, salmon, stuff like that. Do you have any I actually just got rolled oats too, so hopefully that would add something to it. It's just pure like rolled oats, like that's it. There's no like extra
Yeah.
stuff in it
And
cuz
I mean,
yeah.
something's going to work for everyone. It's different for your goals. Now, I would say for long distance runners too, right? And you need carbohydrates because that's going to be your primary source of fuel. But, for, the everyday person that, you're just trying to, achieve your fitness goals, you'll be surprised, your body adapts real fast. You don't need
Yeah.
it as much as the carbohydrates as you think you need. A lot of times your body adapts too. That's why we both kind of said similar to how we don't eat a lot before we work out or nothing at all. So your body will adapt to it, and fueling is important, especially for the marathon. I mean, that's a distance where you're running for 3 hours at a time, right? 2 3 hours. But when you're just going and you're lifting, you're still lifting heavy, you're running. Your body doesn't need as much carbohydrates, so it can pull energy from so many different places. So you know, find, you know, what works for you is going to help you achieve your goals, honestly, at the end of the day. So honestly, like the whole foods, like you said, I said too, that's going to be the best thing. We're naturally made to eat whole foods, right? A lot of times, I mean, one of the biggest problems, you know, in the world right now is we're always tempted, right? We have so many options. I mean, I think the point of where we're at right now as a society is you can literally go anywhere and get any food that was just, you know, manufactured anywhere, right? We don't know who made it, what they put into it. They're just selling it and we're going to get it. And I mean, I'm guilty of it. We're all guilty of it. You know, you enjoy yourself once in a while. It's a balance in life, right? But it's not going to make us feel the best all the time, especially when we're training for a goal. And we all know that, I think. I mean, if I went right now and ate, you know, a couple of Pop Tarts and a bag of cereal before I went and ran, I probably wouldn't feel the best and I wouldn't be able to perform the way I do. So you got to watch what
Yeah.
you eat too.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I was actually just at Costco. And while I
Hmm.
was in there, I was grabbing, a bunch of Whole Foods and I was in the oats section. And when I was in the oats section, I was looking at oats and this I ended up getting like the Kirkland organic oats. But as I was looking at these bags that were saying organic oats, and then I'd look at the back of them because you have to check the ingredients. I mean, you don't have
Yeah.
to. I do. I check the ingredients, right? Usually when I buy something.
Yeah.
And when I looked at the back, it was like 7 added sugars. I'm like, oh, who needs added sugar to regular organic oats?
Yeah.
Unless you're like, it was natural raw cane sugar. Like, don't get me wrong, like they were right, like it was organic, but it was still like an unnecessary amount of sugar just dumped into a bag of oats, which you got to be cautious of those things, or at least I am. I'm cautious of those things whenever I look at certain bags because there's so many different other options that are healthy, that are natural, like honey. Like if you want like a natural sugary substance on it, or monk fruit or something like that. Those are the two
Yeah.
things that I use whenever I want to add some sugar.
Yeah, so I mean that's important. I think, you know, I could talk about, you know, nutrition all day long, and there's a lot of steps that, you know, people and, you know, our society can make as a whole to make it better. But if you stick to what you know is good, we all know what's good for us, you know. I don't think you can go wrong. So just focus on that, make sure you eat enough protein. That's how our body builds muscle, right? And maintains the muscle that we have. So I think diet's like
Yeah,
it's a huge factor, very huge factor.
yeah. So you said you use Go Gel, right? You use the
Yeah.
gel
Oh
whenever
man, I
you're
love
running.
BPN. And you know, Nick
Yeah.
Bear actually, he's from Central Pennsylvania. For those of you who don't know, Nick Bear, they're doing huge things out there. Him and his company BPN, Go Gels. They're my favorite. I've also tried the Martin gels. They're pretty popular with marathon runners, but right now the Go Gels, I think those are my favorite. They taste good. He uses, like, you know, natural ingredients too. He's a real big believer in that as well. I mean, if anyone knows Nick Bear and BPN, go on more. He's all into all natural things. He does his best. You know, that was one of the biggest things that took him a while to produce, you know, these gels and to make them, you know, also taste good and have a long shelf life, is they were running into issues because he's using these natural ingredients. It was hard to get a good formula for them to last long enough, because a lot of the ones you'll find have added things in them which make them last
Yeah.
longer. But he was able to come up with his team a good like mix. I don't know all the science behind everything, but they found a good formula that was like all natural ingredients, and they actually taste good too. So I mean, you eat it, it tastes like
Yeah.
applesauce. They have one flavor out now, and they just launched another one recently. So those are good, great for running, really good for running.
Yeah, it's funny because when I started DMing you to come on the podcast, and
Mhm.
I guess like Instagram just knew that you were a marathon runner,
Yeah.
so it started giving me ads for GoJo, like
Oh
on my
wow.
Instagram feed, which
Yeah,
I
it's
thought was
crazy
pretty
how that
funny.
happens
Yeah,
right now. The algorithm and everything that they have. I don't know how they do that, but it's insane.
yeah, absolutely, man. My sister also is doing a half marathon in Philly in March. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure you can only probably do one or two big races like that, but I don't know if you've ever given that one a thought at all.
No, I haven't done that one, but my cousin used to do the Philly one too, and I'm always excited whenever I hear anyone's doing any type of race. You know, I just get excited talking about it because, you know, everyone's at a different point, but everyone's training for it just as hard, right? It doesn't matter where you're at, right? And I think the biggest thing is you have to start somewhere and you have to try it, right? If you don't try it and start somewhere, you're not going to get anywhere. So I think that's awesome. I love hearing that. Other people telling me their stories, relatives, friends, themselves doing races like that. I think it's always inspiring, motivating too. So that's awesome, man.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So, what's your why? Like, I know you said you just kind of like heard about it, and like that's why you wanted to do it. But what's the reason that you keep doing it? Is it just like the love of it, or is there a deeper
Yeah,
reason?
so people ask me that all the time, and there's a couple reasons I would say for it. First of all, is I love to challenge myself, but that is not only going to get you so far. Right? You can't do it for yourself. I tell people this all the time. Yes, there's parts of it that I do for myself, right? Like it gets me out there, it challenges me. It's good for your mental health, your physical health. It gives me a good goal, but at the end of the day, I do it, for other people, right? I love showing other people like you're able to do this, right? It's an ability that you have. You're blessed to do it every day, right? And some days it's going to suck, but I love showing other people that you can do things that are hard. And I heard a quote the other day and I've been sharing it recently, but it's like something that you're complaining about, or it's a problem for you. Other people are dreaming about it, right? Or they wish they were able to do it, right? I mean, just recently, the guy that broke the marathon world record, right? Kelvin Kiptum, he passed away not too long ago. Same age as us, man. That's crazy. And he would pay anything, and so would his family. They would pay anything to have him back, right? So, I mean, it's just a gift that we're able to do this every day. So I think the biggest reason is, I just love showing people that you're able to do this. I love motivating other people. It inspires other people, my family, my friends, anyone else who sees it. They look at it and they're like, wow, someone else is able to do that. And it's like, I do it not to show people that I can do it, but to show you that you're able to do it, right? Because there was a point that I wasn't able to do this, and I'm not special. I'm not better than anyone else, right? I'm just out here showing you that it's possible. And there's people that are doing crazier things than me, right? So I see those people and they motivate me just like I'm able to motivate someone else. So I think it's just a compounding effect on everyone else showing each other that they can do these things. So that's part of the reason why I do it, just to show other people that it's possible.
Has there been, just piggybacking off of that, has there been a specific person or a specific situation that you've felt really good about what you've been doing, that you've impacted someone?
Um, I would say not in particular a specific person for me myself, but I know I hear people all the time. I mean, a friend, someone will reach out to me. I get messages all the time coming through like, "Man, I saw you did that. That's crazy." And they'll ask me for tips. Once in a while, my brother, I have a twin brother, he's like, "Dude, I don't know how you do that every day." Another great friend I have from college, his name is Zach. He lives out in Arizona. He's like, "Dude, you're a beast. I don't know how you do that every single day." And it's just being able to share that with friends and family and seeing the joy it brings them also brings me joy. Sharing it with my dad every day too. He's like, "Wow, that's crazy." My mom. So I think, just being able to show your friends and family is, it's crazy. I don't have like, as much as I wish I could say I have a story with one specific person or one specific instance, that's always, something awesome that you can do. I don't have like one specific thing I would say like, oh, that's what motivates me. It's more so all together.
Absolutely. Yeah. Is your dad still, does he still own the Flamingo Grill downtown?
No, my dad's in Greece now though. But yeah, so he's actually
Really?
in Greece.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, but he's doing good. I hope he's gonna come back soon. So hopefully soon to visit, because my brother actually graduates here from law school. So I'm happy for him too. That's a huge achievement. That's another thing I also tell people
Absolutely.
too. It's not always, just the physical things. Of course, you see the marathon. Other people have lifting goals, fitness goals. Other people apply that to other parts of their life, right? So whether you want to be an
Yeah.
artist, a musician, anything it is that you do. My brother wants to be a lawyer. He puts more energy into that. I always think that's so awesome too, right? So I think, people put their energies into certain things that they want to do. And, you see me doing this, you're like, that's awesome. I could do that. But I was like, I see you doing this. I think that's pretty cool too that you're able to do that. So there's different parts to it, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, and to to be able to like notice that is huge, right? Being able to notice that someone's just passionate and just excelling and achieving something in general, that's what's part of like being human. Cause like whenever I was, I had some opinions where I was like, well, you have to do something physical. We're like,
Yeah.
that's not like some people don't always have to do that. Like some
Mhm.
people, they go outside and they have enough patience to draw a sunset for 4 or 5 hours or, 3 hours, however long it takes, and then that for them is their daily whatever. And then they eat healthy. And then that, like, they take care of themselves in other ways. They don't always have to go to the gym. I mean, I think for me, the gym was just the easiest thing where it's like you're physically doing something that's making you feel better. So like that's it. Like that's it for you. And I think it's great when people can expand that and show that there's more to life and more that they can put their energy into than just the gym or working out.
Yeah, exactly. And I think for me too, it's like it's always been like something physical like that. And for a lot of people, they can relate to that. And there's nothing wrong with that. And just like there's nothing wrong with, like I said, your profession being that as your passion and something that you put your all into. I mean, currently I work as a research coordinator and exercise physiologist. I work for a doctor, and just to see the impact that he's able to have on his patients. I mean, I work with him, I see some of the patients with him, and they've been seeing this doctor who saved their lives for longer than we've been alive. And just to see that impact that he's able to have on these people with what he does. He's about in his 60s. He's been doing this for 40 years. Dude works probably like 80 hours a week. I don't know how he does it, but I'm like, that's his thing. He's been doing that. And I think that's so cool to be able to do something like that, to have an impact. And then I'm able to do something like this that has an impact as well. For each person, they put their energy into what they're passionate about and able to do. So I think that's so cool.
Absolutely. Yeah, man. Or you said 60 plus years old, working 80 hours a week.
Yeah, dude,
That
that's
man,
insane. I can't believe it. I can't believe it.
yeah, he had to have like found his true passion to
Hmm.
want to do that every day,
Yeah.
essentially working a double shift every single day, right?
Yeah.
And that's just wow.
Yeah. Imagine
That's
that,
incredible,
man.
man. Yeah.
And just seeing that, I'm like, knowing that someone else is able to do that and he's still doing that, it's also motivating for me, right? It's not like I don't look up to do that because that's not something that I want to do, but seeing that drive that he has for his passion drives me to be able to do what I want to do. So I think that's so
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Like when if you wake up one morning, you're like, I don't know if I have the energy to do this. You're like, that guy's 60 plus years old and he has the energy to put in 80
Yeah,
hours a
right.
week every week.
So it's like I have no excuse, right?
Yeah.
Just being able to see that, I'm like, man, that's crazy.
Yeah. And that's one thing that I've been like focusing on too is like you have a ton of energy, dude. Because like I always used to be like, oh, like I have no energy. Like I have no energy today to work out. It's like you have all the energy because you're still gonna be alive after this, right? And you're still gonna go
Yeah,
eat. You're still gonna be able to hang out with people. You're still gonna be able to do podcast clips. You're still gonna be able to make videos. Like you're still gonna be able to, work. Like you have all the energy. It's just a matter of having that mental capacity to get over what you're currently battling.
exactly. Just like you said, the mental capacity. And the one thing I always tell everyone is tell me one time you went and did a workout and you felt mad that you went and did it afterwards. There's never one time you finished a workout or went and did one and you're like, dang, I wish I didn't do that. You're always like, dang, I'm so happy
Yeah.
I did that, right? Anything, a
Yeah.
workout, a run, a lift, any type of workout, physical activity. For a lot of people, thinking going into it, you're dreading doing it. And that's normal, right? As human beings, it's a lot of times we don't want to do things that are hard. But whenever we do things that are hard, we're always like, wow, I'm so happy, I did that and I got it done rather than like, oh man, I'm mad that I just did something hard. No, you're happy because you just did something that you weren't sure you were able to do, right? So I
Yeah.
think that's the cool part about working out too and doing something that's physically exhausting. You feel great afterwards.
It's always going to end one of two ways. It's going to end that you're so happy you did it and you feel great and you feel fantastic, or you're happy it's over. So either way, you're going to be happy that
Yeah,
you did it and you got through it, because like like you said, it's never going to be like, oh, now I'm mad because I just worked out. You're either going to be like, thank God I got through that. Thank God it's over. Like, I'm happy I did it, happy I got it done. Or it's going to be like, I feel fantastic that I just got that done. So either way, you feel good.
yeah. And whether it's one or the other, you feel good when you did it, and you still have a bunch of energy. That's awesome. You keep riding that momentum. But the times when you finish it, you're still happy you did it and you got it done with, but you might feel like defeated, like physically. Those are the times where, that's where you gain like the most strength, and you're able to next time keep going and going and going, because you're like, I know I was able to do it before. And that's just part of the thing where it's just like showing up day after day, and just doing it even on those days when it is hard. There's going to be the days when it's easy, but it's those days when it's very difficult, or you might have other things going on, where when you're able to do that, those are the days that are really going to matter. And that's when I think people really get better, and they're able to see what's possible as humans. So I think that's amazing.
Absolutely. I don't. Do you listen to Andrew Huberman at all?
I do, man. I love Andrew Huberman. I haven't listened to all of them, but once in a while I'll throw his podcast on. And if you're going to where I think it is, there's one part in the brain that he talks about where it's, if you do things, that are hard. I forget exactly the part of the brain it's called, but he was talking about it one time. I was listening to it during one of my runs, and I was like, wow, that's crazy that there's science behind it, right? And that part of the brain
Yeah,
actually grows bigger when you do things that are challenging, or things that you don't want to do. And that was one of
yeah.
my favorite podcasts of him that I listened to. That was crazy.
And he also said that it was directly linked to the will to live. Not even the will to do something, but the actual will to live. So the more that it grows, the more that actually is linked more to longevity than any other part of life. I mean, if you think about it, people retire, and then once they retire, they stop working out. They stop moving. They're like, I'm going to sit on the couch, or I'm going to sit out back with my feet kicked up watching the sun. But you can only do that for so long, to the point where you're like, why am I waking up in the morning? What's my purpose? What am I doing here? And then once you finally, like, I think Chris Williamson talks about it on Joe Rogan's podcast. He's like, every time someone retires, they should be given a dog, because then at least you have a reason. You have something that, wants to go outside, or wants food, or wants to be pet, or, makes a mess. And then you have to, like, like, these things are so hard, but like, at least it still gives you that will to keep going and that will to keep living.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's so amazing. It's actually funny because the other day, I mean, I work as a research coordinator, and I work, for a doctor. So we see a lot of older people, and the one patient the other day, he's like, you don't want to get to this age. He's like, you don't want to be able to retire. He's like, I wish I'd never retired, because he's like, once you retire, then it's like you don't have a reason or a purpose, to keep going. If you do retire, stop doing everything. So he's like, never get to the age where you want to retire.
No, yeah, it's like, not even retire, because retire is like, say you work your whole life and you get to be 50
Mhm.
and you love fishing. So what do you do with some of your savings? You go out and you buy a boat, and then you, like, charter people to go out, like, deep sea fishing, and you have enough money in the bank to, like, I'm good, my income streams are good, as long as I, even if I wreck this boat, I just don't have to do this anymore, because it's not my mainstream of income. Everything else is, but I like doing it. So I'm going to do it, maybe make some money, go fishing with people, meet new people. And like, that should be what retirement really is for
Yeah.
people. You know what I mean? Not necessarily like, oh, now it's time to sit around all day.
Yeah, and just stop doing everything. Yeah. I think you need to get somewhere to where you're able to do what you want to do and it's a purpose, right? Instead of,
Yeah,
just working to make a living. I think, that should be the
absolutely.
ultimate goal and I think if everyone's able to do that, I think the world, would be so much better place, because everyone would be living with a purpose.
Yeah. And that's, I mean, Joe Rogan talks, I don't know if you could tell, but I've listened to a lot of Joe Rogan. He talks about,
Yeah, I love Joe
like,
Rogan too, man.
he talks about, like, AI, there's some worries around AI, like, taking over jobs and people won't have jobs because of AI. But he's like, no, what it's going to allow us to do is a lot of our basic needs are going to be met. No one's going to have to like, do all these like lower level jobs. Automation's going to help us, basic needs met. So it'll leave more room for those creative jobs or those wanting jobs, right? Jobs that people want to do. So there may even be a growth of jobs and a growth of wealth with AI. And that's like the mindset that he takes when he talks about it. And I think, that's when a lot of people will start to retire early. I mean, people are already retiring earlier than they used to because of like not cybersecurity, but, automation, AI, things online helping people make money and things like that.
Yeah, I think that's pretty cool too, because it'll eliminate a lot of the jobs. A lot of those jobs are jobs that people don't want to do, right? So you're doing
Yeah,
that and you don't really have a purpose. So if we're able to eliminate that and tie this back into the whole purpose thing, you're able to go do something that will fulfill you and bring you more joy, and you can put energy into things that you want to do. So I think that's, a lot of people think it's taking away the jobs, but I think it'll actually do a good thing and take away the jobs that people don't want to do, and that are actually like making people hate their daily life, if you think of it that way. So that's another way to
absolutely.
think about it.
Absolutely. Just like with the Industrial Revolution, right? With the Industrial Revolution, they thought, oh, now no one's going to have a job because everything's getting, there's like machines and automation, and we're all still fine. Everyone still has jobs. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like it took
Exactly.
away a bunch of jobs, it actually created a bunch of jobs. And I think that's the path that we're still on right now.
Yeah, it's awesome, man.
Yeah. So there's a little bit of stuff going around on the internet saying that like cardio kills gains, right? So
Hmm.
what are your thoughts on that? Being that you are a marathon runner and you run all
Hmm.
the time every day, do you feel like your cardio has lessened your gains, or do you feel like it's helped your gains, or do you feel like there's not really that much of an impact? What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I mean, obviously, there's a couple of different ways you can go about this, right? Cardio, I think everyone needs to be able to do cardio, right? Because that's your heart, right? That's how you're gonna live. Your heart, if your heart's not pumping right, you're not living. So everyone needs to be able to do some type of cardio. Now, in terms of training for a specific goal, if you're a marathon runner and you want to run fast and far, you're not going to be the biggest guy, out there. But you could still run and do cardio and not lose your gains and actually make gains. You need to be eating enough fuel, right? Just think about it like energy. Whatever you're burning, if you consume that back in, you're going to be fine. But if you're running so much or doing any type of cardio to where you're not able to progress in your strength or keep the strength you have, then you're doing too much. And then that's when it can start killing your gains, or how people say kill your gains, is if you notice that you're not getting stronger or able to maintain the strength that you have, then you're doing too much or you're not fueling enough. So I would say do cardio. It's great. I mean, we see some of the biggest athletes. Tell me, NFL players don't have cardio. How jacked are these guys, man? They're some of
Yeah.
the most jacked people we've seen on the world, right? And they do cardio all the time. They're running up and down that field for the whole game. They do sprints all the time. They have to have good cardiovascular strength. So I mean, you have to be able to do cardio, but it's not going to kill your gains unless you're unless you're doing like hours and hours and hours and you're not, and you stop lifting, right? That's when it'll kill your gains, right? If you stop lifting. But if you keep lifting and keep that intensity up, you're not going to lose your gains.
Awesome. Yeah, no, I appreciate your outlook on that because it's one thing to hear that from someone who doesn't actually live the life of a long distance runner, and it's not like you're like, oh, I do a big run here and there, like every single day. For the most part, at least what I'm seeing, you're waking up and you're doing, to at least a 10K every day. I'm
Yeah,
seeing.
I'm averaging right now probably anywhere from 70 to 90 miles a week. The other week I did 100 miles in a week. And I mean, I'm not huge, but I'm strong. I'm my way about 150 pounds. I can still deadlift damn near close to 400 pounds. I mean, like 370 pounds. I could still squat. I used to be able to squat more. I could still squat 315. I could still bench close to 200 pounds. So, I mean, for my size and the amount that I'm running, it's not going to destroy your gains. If anything, you can maintain the strength that you have. And then when it comes around your race, you're going to take back the weights a little bit. That's temporary. It's not going to go away. Your body's not going to forget all the muscles you have. And, after your race, around that time period, that 2 week period, I'm not going to lose my gains in 2 weeks, right? I rest for those 2 weeks before the race, focus more on the marathon. And then after that, when I don't have a race planned in the near future, then I could start getting back to the weights. But it's, that 2 week period, it's not going to kill your gains. I mean, we see other people out there running, doing crazy things. I mean, even Nick Bear, look at Nick Bear and tell me it killed his gains. That dude is jacked. And he's out there running. He ran a 2:39 marathon just recently. That's faster than the goal pace that I want to run. And he's huge. So it's not going to kill your gains. I think a lot of people, they fear that because someone out there is telling them that it's going to kill their gains, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, and it gives them permission to not get on the treadmill.
Yeah, right. I think that's another thing, right? Like we said earlier, people don't want to do things that are hard, right? Or that are like boring to them. But cardio is another thing, right? For a lot of people, it's hard, it's uncomfortable, and it's challenging because in the beginning, when you're not used to it, you're breathing hard, your heart's pumping real fast, and it's something that you just don't want to do. So people will find a reason to not do it, right? Because it's something that's hard. So I think that's another thing and why it's circulating out there right now. That's real popular.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I used to do a 5K every day, every morning. Recently bumped down to like a mile and a half because I wanted to focus on my strength training, and
Mhm.
I started to squat and deadlift a lot more, and just also running, just didn't it wasn't working for me too much. I mean, I still run, right? Like I still do like a high intensity like mile and a half, but aside from that, I focused more on my overall fitness rather than really focusing on cardio. But that 5K was just like a way for me to be like, no, like you're gonna do this right now, 6 a.m. Roll out of bed. It's
Yeah,
time for you to run. And it got me into the mindset. It wasn't even so much the mindset of like running a 5K. It was the mindset of like, this is what we do. You're doing it right now. Like I'm going to get up and I'm going to run, whether I like it or not. And now
exactly.
I've implemented that into not only my strength training and going to the gym every day, but also just anything in general. Like if I want to do something, say I want to sit down and do podcast notes or do podcast clips, like I say to myself, you're going to sit down and you're going to do this right now. So when they say that it's not like the stuff that you do along the journey, it's the person you become. That's one of the aspects that I've grabbed from that specific journey, because getting up and running a 5K, for me anyway, right, being as big as I was, is a lot harder than me sitting down and doing podcast clips. So
Yeah.
that kind of formulated for me a calloused mindset where I can now apply it to other stuff in my life.
Exactly. And I like how you said that callous mindset because you probably heard of David Goggins before too, but when
Oh
that
yeah.
guy he used to do that all the time. And then when he wasn't able to do that, I mean, if you've heard his story, eventually he had problems with his heart. He wasn't able to do stuff for so long. He spent hours, and I'm talking hours, where he would literally just learn things. Like he would reread the same page over and over again. He would stretch. This dude would stretch for like 4 or 5 hours at a time. Name one other person you ever met that's able to do that. And he
Yeah.
built that from the physical things that he was doing beforehand, where he was running 10 miles a day, 15 miles a day, lifting 2 or 3 times a day, Navy SEAL. So I think it's all building that mindset and being able to apply it to other parts of your life too. It really does compound on other things too, because you're doing something already that's hard. So now these other parts of our life that we want to do, they might be just as hard or not even as hard as what we were able to do earlier. So now we're able to do those things, right? And it all comes back to our mindset. So I think that's crazy. It's so cool how that works.
Yeah, because stretching for 4 or 5 hours, not only is it, it's a lot of stuff. Stretching sometimes, depending on what kind of stretches you're doing, it's physically taxing, but it's also just boring. Like, you know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like, just doing something that is boring for 4 or 5 hours just because you said you were gonna do it and because you know it's good for you, and that's the only reason.
Mhm,
Because you said you were gonna do it, and
mhm.
because it's good for you. Like, there's no other reason that he should be stretching for 4 or 5 hours. I mean, other
Yeah.
than it's probably healthy for him when he's running and when he's lifting and stuff like that, but 4 or 5 hours, though, that's a long time, and it's almost like I don't know, like I find myself doing not stuff like that, but kind of stuff like that. Where like if I say I'm going to do something, but that we had some technical difficulties, with the recording. But yeah, it's really been a pleasure talking to you, Elias. Do you have any final thoughts for anyone that's looking to get into the racing world or anyone that's looking to just get in shape at all?
Yeah, so in terms of the racing, so actually when you asked me for to be on the podcast, I was actually real happy, but I had a few things that I wanted to like wrap up with and kind of, give people to put into their running or whatever it is. And there's 3 points that I really wanted to like drive home. And the first one was I have my notes here. There's the only three things I wrote down. Other than that, I knew everything I wanted to talk about. But you have to start, right? If you don't start, no matter what it is, whether it's running, lifting, anything else, you have to start. So just start what it is that you want to do and do that first, right? So start it. Then you have to do the work, right? So you have to show up and do the work consistently and every single day and just keep doing it and doing it and doing it. You'll get better. There's times where you're going to feel like you're not moving forward with it. That's okay. Just keep doing it anyway. There is a lot of, magic in showing up and doing work, right? No matter what it is. So do the work. And the last thing, you have to go into it and know it's going to be hard, right? It's not easy doing anything that's challenging or that scares you a little bit, right? Running a marathon is hard no matter what. I mean, even as the people that are elite runners, right? The paces that they're running at, it's hard for them. For someone else just signing up and doing a marathon, it's hard, but you just have to accept the fact that it's going to be hard, and you just have to be harder than that and show up and be tough, right? So those three things: you have to start, you have to do the work, and be okay with knowing it's going to be hard. And if you're able to keep those three things in mind, start, do the work, and know it's going to be hard, you're going to go a long way and you'll be able to achieve what you want to achieve. So I think those are three great points I think that anyone can use to apply to running and any part of any goal that they have. So that's my takeaway.
Absolutely. And to your point of just like showing up, there was you could say a study, but not really a study. There was a personal trainer,
Mm-hmm.
and he had a client that was like, "There's no way that like I'm gonna lose any of this weight. There's no shot. Like I've tried everything. I've tried every diet." And he's like, "Okay, what I want you to do every day is I want you to just show up to the gym for 5 minutes. Like just show up, whatever you can do in 5 minutes, do in 5 minutes, and then leave. Like I don't want you to like go to 10 or 15 or push yourself to the point where you don't want to come back tomorrow. Just show up for 5 minutes. And then like the week after, they're like, all right, now you're gonna show up for 10 minutes. All right, not third week. All right, now you're gonna show up for 15 minutes. And just that habit of showing up, he actually ended up losing, I think, over 100 pounds just because he actually showed up rather than some people think that, and I used to think this too, just trying, they don't truly know what the definition, and I truly didn't know what the definition of trying was. I thought it was we're going to give it a go today, and if I don't feel like doing it tomorrow, I'm just not going to do it. And that's not really what it is, because things that are worth it take time. And I think that's what, we live in a world where it's dopamine fixation, and it's not even really dopamine fixation, it's serotonin fixation, because it's what's making me happy right now. Because dopamine is that pursuit of a goal. Like you probably felt so great every time you were achieving something, and when you finally hit that right under 3 hour
Yeah.
mark on your marathon, that was a serotonin hit because
Mm-hmm.
you just did it. But
Yeah.
that entire time you're pursuing something. So you're getting dopamine in order to chase that goal that you have.
Hmm. Exactly. Just like you said, every day leading up to that, I was like, all right, I want to achieve this goal. I'm chasing that goal. That kept me driving, driving, driving. And then when I finished it, that was like the culmination of everything. And that exact moment when I hit that under 3 hours, that feeling right there was the culmination of everything. Just going, wow, it was all worth it. So it's exactly like you put it, just like that.
That's awesome, man. I'm super happy for you. I'm super happy for everything that you have accomplished and everything that you plan to accomplish because your goals are something to admire for sure. Just having the mindset that you can achieve that and going out and actually setting those goals and taking the day by day process with your physical activity, your nutrition activity, your mindset, and also motivating other people to do exactly what you do or even do what you do to the extent that you do it, but with whatever their specific passion or profession is, I think is a huge impact, and I think that it helps people and pushes people more than you know. So, I want to wish you the best on your endeavors. We talked about doing another podcast after your next race, which I'm super down for.
For
And
sure,
I
for
just want to
sure.
thank you for coming on the podcast and, sharing your story and sharing, the impact that you've had on other people and the impact that they've had on you.
Yeah, for sure, man. And again, I want to thank you for letting me come on here and, share that experience too. It's always fun being able to talk about something you're passionate of. So that was a great experience too. And we're definitely, we're going to run it back again here soon. Oh, man, I'm excited. And keep doing what you're doing because like we said, right, you're showing up, you're doing the work that you want to do. So, man, it's going to go a long way. I'm telling you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, man. I appreciate it because I try to put out good solid content and also like frequent content with this and also with my reels and things like that. So I appreciate you seeing the work and for everyone else that's out there listening right now, we are on YouTube at Excelcast. We're on Spotify at Excelcast. We're on Instagram at Excelcast underscore. We're on Apple Podcasts, Amazon Podcasts. I'm also on TikTok at Excelcast. Got a Facebook and a LinkedIn. They're all Excelcast. So whatever platforms you got, whatever platforms you listen to your podcast on, be sure to give us a follow. And as always, stay blessed and excel.